Hi and welcome to Charot Room with your Queen Charotera, FaelnarTe. And today we're gonna do Nosebleed Edition once again, as I have one half of Miss Jarly Talks here, Miss J.
Hello, good to be back.
And of course, we have the gorgeous, the stunning from the House of Nadress, Gorjosi Nadress, otherwise known as Sarah Parlow, creator, director, actress of Lit Girl, and also award-winning actress of Patrick, right? Is that correct?
Patrick. Hi, everyone. Yay.
Hi. And a while ago, we had Esmeralda, but she doesn't have that much time. But she shared a little bit of her thoughts, so I'm going to try to squeeze that in. But today we're here so that we can discuss our new president.
Woo, woo, woo. Uncle Joe.
Uncle Joe. And I just love the middle name. The middle name gets me all the time. It's like Robinette.
Yes. Robinette.
Mr. Robinette.
That's pretty progressive for the time he was born, huh?
Yeah. And I think it came from his grandmother's maiden name or something like that. It's like
cool.
A far-fetched name. I forgot how they named him Robinette, but I think it's because of lineage and where the grandmother came from. I forget. Something like that.
Sounds French.
But it does sound super French.
Ooh la la.
Anyways, so basically, how do you feel right now that we have a new president?
Well, I'm not checking my phone every morning, wondering what happened while I was asleep, because that was my ritual for the last 4 years, was dreading, and that was the first thing I would do, is grab my phone, look at it, grumble and moan. And my choices became, hey, I either don't look at the news and I'm happy all day, or I look at the news and I'm part of reality. So I looked at the news every day, and I don't do that now. Not every morning.
Agreed. There is this sort of sigh of relief that I don't have to research countries to emigrate to anymore, because my existence is being erased and outlawed in America. I no longer have nightmares of, California becoming the Handmaid's Tale eventually, and all of the United States. So it's just good to have someone with some decorum and sanity, at least, representing us and doing that presidential thing.
Oh my God. I think I also share the same sentiment. It feels like it's not going to be as bad as it was. And I feel like things can get resolved. Not right away, but at least there's gonna be a path to things being resolved, especially number one on, I think, every country's list is COVID.
Yeah.
It's real.
I was saying, looking at my notes. Day 2, every single one of his executive orders on the second day were specifically COVID related. So, getting his plan out, getting National Guard to get vaccines out, meeting his 100 million vaccinations in his first 100 days. I'm just glad to have a president again.
And one that's
not what we had.
One that doesn't make a mockery of COVID and make a show of coming out of the hospital and ripping off his mask. It was such a gag, in so many ways, watching the Trump show for 4 years. And it certainly peaked for me this month with the entire insurrection that happened. And I kind of looked around and said to myself, am I in America? Because this was not the country I ever knew growing up. I mean, it just, it's frightening to me how polarized our politics have become, especially in the last 4 years. So Joe, while he's a Democrat, isn't a radical Democrat, and maybe where America needs to be centered is slightly more moderate in the middle. So I'm hoping for the time and place that Joe is a good choice for the next 4 years. It certainly seems that way in a lot of ways.
And what do you call this? I thought about that during, like, even before, or like, what am I trying to say? Right out of the bat, when Hillary didn't win the presidency, I thought to myself, like, who would have been a better candidate? Because Hillary seemed like a good candidate, at least during that time. And I thought to myself, like, do we really need somebody who's male? Because Hillary already checked the box of white, but I still thought, like, do we need somebody who's male to become president? And right out of the bat, like, as much as I love Bernie, the first person that came to my mind was Joe Biden. I just thought Bernie is too far left than a lot of people would want. So I agree with Sarah. I feel like Joe is a happy medium.
Yeah. I would agree. I would agree with that. And again, with Sarah, I do think that as much as I would love to see the pendulum all the way back to the left, going from such a far right to such a far left, I think would actually cause a deeper rift than there is right now. And even though he wasn't, my first choice for president, I didn't dislike him. He just wasn't my first choice. But then when all things landed, I was like, well, he is moderate enough to hopefully mend some of this just disaster that's happened over, the very partisan politics. There has to be work or, compromise, or nothing is going to get done.
Okay. So for people who are Filipino that might be watching this, and also for myself, can you both try to explain to me what far left and far right means? Because hello, politics, Filipinos, a lot of times we just go with what our friends vote for and what our bubble is. So I'm just can you help explain that for me?
Yeah. So I mean, I and Jen, you can chime in and correct me if I'm wrong, but for the most part, far right is, ultra conservative. And they're very concerned about government interference with private enterprise, specifically money. And they tend to be, more capitalistic. And there tends to be, at least in my mind, a strong Christian religious aspect to the far right, informing their politics and their moral decisions, especially around things like abortion. Jen, do you have something to say?
Yes, I do. Because the thing that's so funny is if you look at politics and the social side of politics, the humanity side of politics, the right is as far away from Christ and Christianity as you can get. I mean, he did work with the poor. He embraced prostitutes. He welcomed everybody. He wanted to take care of people. And the far right side, because I won't say middle Republicans, but the far right Republicans want to do away with everything that's socially benefiting. And it's just, and especially not to dwell on these last 4 years, but these last 4 years were the antithesis of Christianity. in those people that supported Trump and in Trump himself.
But then also there comes a point when they're very self-righteous. And I think that's like they think them being so God-fearing in a way where it's just too much, where they're already oppressing like other people's rights, human rights, and actually not being pro-humanity anymore. I feel like that type of righteousness is what really drives them and makes them feel better about themselves, which is kind of sad, really.
It is the piety that comes from that. Like they're all being very pious. I'm a million times holier than thou. And the thing of that is, I mean, even it's the fundamentalists, I think, within each organization of religion. So like the people that are like, we're fundamentalist Catholics, or fundamentalist Baptists, or fundamental evangelicals. Fundamentals are the extremists, and those are the things that tear something apart.
So would the far left be somebody that's more pro-humanity, or how would you describe the far left then?
I would call the far left more collectivist versus individualistic. I see the right as being more individualistic, and you're right, they tend to weaponize their Christianity in a way that it's, I don't think, intended. But the left is more about social programming, supporting the whole, lifting up repressed groups of people and protecting them, protecting rights. And some people will go the distance and call it leaning towards socialism, but I don't see that being the case. I see it being much more of a collective and mindful approach to governing and taking care of people. Jen, Lee, anything else?
Yeah, I think like the left, again, I believe socially aware, socially conscious, wanting to take care of the populace rather than the minority, the 1% even. And to me, like you had said some, like some people would be like, it's nice socialism. I think that for me is actually the far left. Like, I worked with two guys back in Indiana, and this was actually funny. One was extremely conservative, one was extremely liberal, and they were so far on either spectrum. They actually agreed with one another. It was different how you came to their way of getting to that point was completely different, but they were so far in the spectrum that they actually were nearly agreeing on exactly what they wanted the outcome of things to be.
So basically the roads are just like this, but then all of a sudden, like they'll end up meeting at the same, like the goal is the same, but then the path to the goal is just like, and then
and the left, the far left is still, you get to that goal through helping people achieve and helping, helping. And the right is all about, what, I'm not going to help you. You can get here, but not through any help of mine. You're just, survival of the fittest, for lack of a better phraseology. But yeah, it always, their world point was actually the same, just completely different ways of getting there.
So thanks for the 411. Because I needed that. I still need that. And I think I'm already a little bit more enlightened than a lot of other people that I know of, or that I know personally. Let's just change that, because that was just completely wrong. That I know. Another question, though, as part of the LGBT community, are you happy that Biden won?
As part of that community, most definitely. To go from, like, I could cry just on this one point, just and not even this isn't specifically LGBT in and of itself, but we went from a white male cabinet to all of a sudden Biden comes in with his appointees, and it's the most diverse that this country's government has ever been in an administration. You know, you have trans appointees, gay appointees, you know, it's just like everyone is there, and Biden, I truly think, is much like, you know, his president, much like Obama, is very in tune with people. I mean, he can slip up a little bit, I think, because of his age and his generation, but at his heart, I think he fully supports you know, all of us, and you know, partially in point. Thank you to Sarah McBride, who was very instrumental, I think, in his view of probably the trans community. People like you know, Gina Rosero and that, who were in the White House or got to go and visit and at least hold company with these politicians and with Biden. Yeah, and so I'm just like, yeah. So I think he cares.
He does seem very empathetic. Like, as far as like watching people who knows him or who's worked with him, it seems like he's such a caring guy. He seems to be super down to earth. And I feel like since he came from not a super rich like family, he knows like how underprivileged communities work and what they need so that they can get out of it. That's like I might be reading it wrong, but that's how I feel. That's like, especially when he speaks, and that's why I kind of feel very hopeful that he's able to do these things now, and that he was given the opportunity is like what I think.
Yeah.
And also, like, trans people can serve again the country.
Right. So we can also look at his actions and what he's done so far, and the fact that he repealed this sort of asinine, you know, policy by Trump to eliminate trans people in the military. We have to think that the military, the U.S. military, is one of the largest employers of trans people in the country. And if you want to cripple a population, what do? You take away their ability to generate income.
Yeah.
So I cannot say strongly enough how destructive this one swipe of the pen that Trump did was to our population. It essentially not only erases those people's ability to generate income and serve their country, but, you know, just also indicates to the world that we had a leader who doesn't even care about our existence as trans people. So I think that his specific repeal of that ban, and also other bans like the Muslim travel ban and other things, I mean, it's showing that Joe is inclusive and is making a lot of efforts to undo so many of these, you know, terrible things that Trump did. So
I love it. Like, you call Trump by Trump, but you can actually just say
you
Joe.
notice that.
And you can just say Joe and feel like it's just family or like somebody close that you know. But to address Trump, you have to say Trump. Why is that? Like, there seems to be a level of comfortability, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it's because we all just bristle, you know, when we think of this man and what he was trying to do and accomplish and suppress. He just was really the embodiment of everything that was wrong with the far right politics in this country. So, Jen, you have something to share?
Yeah, no, I mean, I was going to say that yeah, I mean, there's a familiarity to Joe. One, because we did have him as a vice president. So there's already this rapport, this relationship with him. And because, Lee, you said earlier, you know, you can sense his empathetic being. And, you know, I'm sorry, but to look in Trump's eyes, they're dead eyes. There's no soul behind those eyes. And, you know, it's just one of those things where the only thing that drove Trump was his ego. Bottom line. And that's why if he got called out, he would just get so irate, because it was like, how dare you attack my ego? And then he would go on the offensive. But yeah, I like the obviously the lifting of the trans service members, because even when Trump tweeted that out, the exact, like, the top members of the armed forces were like, why is this actually real, and why are you doing it? Like, none of them agreed with him. You know, and then that following day he did the executive order, and that was that. But it was luckily it was held up in court actually for quite some time. But yeah, I'm glad to see that that's back, and that that Joe came in and immediately put a freeze on that frenzy of executive orders that Trump put through, like, his last day. And, you know, Joe immediately came in and was like, no, every single one of those is frozen. Like, we're not moving ahead with these.
And as exciting as all the things that he's done within the first few weeks of his presidency, I know there's still a lot of people that aren't complacent with him being president. Like you said, like, Jen, like, he wasn't first choice. Like our friend Esmeralda, this is where I'm going to squeeze and special mention Esmeralda. In her generation, which is like younger millennial, close to Gen Z type of generation, they're a whole lot more progressive. Like, their point of view, especially her group of people. I'm going to out you, Esmeralda. She happens to be Latina. So sorry. But yeah, so and she expressed that, to quote her, she said, like, it's another white dude president, not as horrible as Trump, but still working within a corrupt system. And what she wants to be seen done, or hopefully what she's pushing for, is you know, racial justice, prison reform, like having bail as not an option, because it makes it possible for people that are wealthy or who have money to get out of prison, while people who are disenfranchised and marginalized stay in prison because of the fact that they can't post bail. Is that the correct term, post bail?
Yes.
So it feels like there's still so much work for us to do. And we shouldn't be complacent. What do you think, like, right now as a community, we can do so that we can mobilize change, even though we know that Biden is more like in the middle when it comes to his beliefs?
I mean, immediately is holding a level of accountability. It's one of those things where, you know, even though I said I didn't check my phone every morning for the news, now I'm still paying attention to what he's doing, because I want him to follow through on promises that he made. I mean, if these promises don't make it past the Senate because of something, you know, happening in there, I understand that. But things that are within his power to make happen need to happen. And we can't really rest on our laurels now. You know, where we were all up in arms about Trump, we need to be just as emotional supporting Joe and making sure that, you know, these measures and that do actually happen, and that he doesn't, you know, kind of start falling back into, you know, maybe something that is more conservative than we would like, or something like that. I just think that we have to pay attention and have to stay on him.
I think that what we're doing right now is powerful. We're having discussion, we're vocalizing. That's important. Voting is still important. You know, in a couple of years, when new Senate and House seats come up for reelection, we need to vote more diversity in. I think that was powerful about, you know, after Trump's election 4 years ago, we saw a swarm of more diverse people coming into politics. And that gave me a certain sense of comfort that things were changing, even in the midst of this very right-wing administration. And also, I think we need to continue, like you said, Jen, to monitor and to do the work, because guess what? In another 3-4 years, we're going to prepare for another election. And Trump is a brand, and he's not going away, whether it's him or a family member. There's a Trump brand out there, and people are going to endorse it. Or, you know, I saw even Sarah Huckabee is running for governor in, I think, Arkansas. And, you know, we just really need to not rest on our laurels, because we got, you know, some level of sanity back in the highest office. Like, the fight still continues.
And the people that voted for Trump won't go away.
No.
I mean, that's like, I feel like that's one thing that we should all remember. It's like, especially as a community, like I feel like they're there, and the light, or like the positive that I see with Trump being president was we saw them. Because like we thought they weren't there, and we actually saw them. So it just means that we have to fight harder, or like not really fight harder, but just be more, what is this word that I'm looking for? Stern? Not stern, more
Diligent.
Correct. Thank you, dictionary.
Yeah, I actually, because again, with I think local, you have to pay attention to local politics. You can't just let those elections slide by. And again, with House and Senate elections, you have to pay attention to those. The 130 some Congress Republicans that supported overturning the election for Trump, like they have to be, like, they should already be pulled away, because they should be disqualified from holding that office now, based on that. But it's not going to happen. So it's like, for us in our areas and there and all around the country, we just have to make sure that we support the opposition to those candidates, and get them out of that seat.
Because let's keep in mind, they are not a minority. You know, 74 million people voted for Trump in this last election, compared to Biden's 80 million. So, and there were moments in the last election that were a little too close for comfort for me until the end. So, diligence, vigilance, all of those things are extremely important. And I think from our personal perspective as trans people, I think what's really moving the needle in so many ways is that we have more representation in media. And any way we can get that, whether that is through film, music, you know, whether it is through politicians like Sarah McBride or whatever. I mean, I think that we're being seen by the world, by America, in unprecedented levels. And we need to continue that, because, again, the majority of people in America have said that they don't know anybody that is trans. So they only learn about us sometimes through media representation. And historically, when representation was so poor, you know, you saw how we suffered, and we cannot go back to that.
So what are you guys what are you looking forward within this 4 years? Or what do you hope would happen within the 4 years?
I again want his promises to be kept, and his policies to go through to help everyone. Even though he's not, again, he wasn't my first choice, I'm hopeful as can be. In this administration, I want there to be more diversity. I want there to be more education. I know that one of the things he reversed was Trump not talking about diversity. He was like, "That we're not talking about this in our administration anymore." That was one of the things that he reversed. Was like, "No, we are going to do this, and we are going to have training and that." I just want to see. I want to see the goodness that I know is in his heart, and Kamala and all of our politicians that have that goodness that comes forward and really shines over the next 4 years, because the light banishes the dark. So I mean that's the bottom line.
And like my hope is like he can try to at least unite our leadership. I know it's far from happening. It's like so far from happening, but at least there's somebody who's willing to try to kind of stitch, like it's so big, and like I don't know if like a small needle and thread would like be able to fix that gap, but at least it's a start, and it can at least hopefully become smaller within the next 4 years, because it's not going to go away, especially with like a lot of people that are still in office right now that I'm so scared of.
Yeah. And from my perspective, I would just say the hot button issues need to be addressed. So public health being number one. We need to get a handle on what's going on with COVID, and wearing masks and protecting each other isn't a political issue. It's a public health issue. I'm glad that Joe is, doing his best to stay on top of that. Number two, I think it's finally time we really addressed racial equality in this country. Let's not forget historically that America was a country of slave owners initially. And what has happened, even with the civil rights movement, is there's never been a heartfelt addressing of the wrongs that were done. And as a white person in America, I would support reparations to the Black community as a start for showing up for all of us, all of our sisters and brothers, whether you're Black, gay, trans, of color, of any sort. Like, this really is a melting pot. And, I think that what is exciting, at least about Joe's election, and also, of course, him being like a more level-headed president, but the fact that he brought on board a female woman of color as vice president, and the fact that Kamala is in office and broke through that glass ceiling, I think is so powerful and sets an example for young girls everywhere that, yes, they can achieve that. And then lastly, I just want to point out that we need to take care of our planet and the earth and the environment. And so by him rejoining the World Health Organization and the Paris Climate Accord, I think we're really addressing that there is a problem, and we need to be more thoughtful about the way we go about living our lives in respect to the planet.
And I know this is a heavy conversation, and thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. Unfortunately, we're running out of time because this felt like super short. Y'all are so full of wisdom, and it's just like so much fun to like be able to kind of release all that pent up energy that we had and speak about something super cool. So like any final words, any final words, promotions, whatnot? I know Jen now more than ever has like
we now more than ever we have our acting class, and this coming week, y'all, our showcase, we're going to Sundance. I mean, obviously not physically because that's not the thing, but it's a virtual showcase this coming Wednesday. It's free. Go to my Instagram. It's got the link in my bio. It's all good. It's free. And I'm just like, I'm blown away that that's where we were able to get this class in 2 years.
Well, I hope that it's going to be available just in case this doesn't come out during that time.
Yes.
So I hope you get to watch it like after the fact. Sarah, anything that you want to promote?
No, just take care of yourselves and take care of each other.
And I'm going to post Lit Girl again on the bottom so you can watch that if you haven't seen it. And it's so amazing. If you want to learn more about trans and dating a trans person, Lit Girl.
Yes.
Untapped resource there.
Thank you all for watching Charot Room. Love ya. Bye.
Love y'all.